So in addition to looking at the basic qualifications, the specialized experience, whether or not there are any KSAs or competencies listed, it is also critical to look at the occupational questionnaire. Please, please, please review the occupational questionnaire before you decide whether or not you're going to bother applying for the job. And I want you to look at that occupational questionnaire for a couple of reasons. Reason number one is to identify the key words that the questionnaire has. Reason number two is to figure out how you're going to answer the questions. And I'm going to be very clear here. If you cannot provide the highest and best answer to every question on the questionnaire, you should not bother applying. I'm going to talk about this in a minute. Because the answers to the questionnaire are part of the qualifications. A lot of times, people tell me, well, I can't see the questionnaire until I actually apply. That is not actually true. Every single vacancy announcement I have ever looked at, now, in fairness, that's not the universe of all vacancy announcements, but it's an awful lot of them. Every single vacancy announcement has a link to where you can preview the questionnaire. Unfortunately, not all agencies put that link in the same place. Some put it in the how you will be evaluated section. Some put it in the required documents section. And some have a link in the how to apply section. Regardless, really take a close look at that vacancy announcement to see what the questions look like. Find that link and see if you're really qualified. And I'll go back to the IT example. Yeah, I have all the competencies of customer service, oral communication, and problem solving. But if I looked at the questionnaire for an IT job, it quickly becomes clear that I'm nowhere close to being qualified. So, the other reason that it's important here is that those occupational questionnaires have keywords that need to be in your resume. And you have to demonstrate what I call E-ness in your resume. It's not enough to answer all the questions E, but you have to be able to actually prove it. All right, let's talk a little bit more about the questionnaire. So, I copy and pasted a questionnaire here. I have not had education, training, or experience performing this task. If this is your answer to a question on the questionnaire, you're not qualified for the job and you need to move on. B, I've had education or training, but I've never done it. Ditto, you're not qualified. C, I performed this on the job, but I was monitored by a supervisor to make sure I did it right. Again, you're not qualified. If you are A, B, or C in responding to these questions, you need to pick a different announcement. Now, where most people get stuck is between D or E. So D says, I perform this task regularly, I performed it independently, and without review. And most people feel pretty comfortable saying that. Because what they don't want to say is what's an E. I'm considered an expert in performing this task. most people are very hesitant to rate themselves an expert, and they get stopped by the period here in E. But keep reading. I have supervised the performance of this task. Doesn't say I've done it or I'm an expert. Or I am a person who's consulted by others to assist them. Now, everybody is consulted by other workers for help getting the job done. So I would actually argue that every single person is an E. If you are struggling between whether or not you should mark D or E, if you want to be in the game, you need to mark E. If you're an A, B, or C, don't bother applying. You're not qualified. But if you are struggling between am I a D or an E, you need to mark yourself as an E. Now, that being said, if someone were to say to you, why did you mark yourself an E? You have to have an answer to that question. And your answer cannot be, well, that was the obvious one to pick, because clearly that's not an appropriate answer. You might say, well, I picked E because of this, this, and this. Now, as an HR person, I can argue with you that's not what I meant by E, but I don't really have a whole lot of standing for that argument because, frankly, most of these questions aren't that well written or aren't that clear. So I think it's really critical for everyone to read the occupational questionnaire and decide whether it is worth applying or not. Again, A, B, or C, move on. D or E, you need to pick E, and you need to demonstrate your E-ness in your resume.